As I said, it's Chris Chapman here. I'm the chairman of Nihilent Australia, and I just wanted to welcome everyone and thank you sincerely for participating in today's webinar, a webinar presented by Nihilent Australia and SAP. Just a couple of heads up, if you like, before we get into this fascinating subject matter of leaving the poor old core alone, where simply too much is expected of it. Now, as you probably heard at the outset, have been muted, and that'll continue until we get to the interactive components. But you are the vital participants, so you're invited to inject yourself, perhaps initially by submitting your comments and questions into the chat box. And I'm going to be reading these out after hearing from our two speakers, Rajiv Dev and Matt Toll. And I'll be given the opportunity then to comment. And don't worry, we're going to use your first names so that you can remain anonymous. Please note that you're going to receive, after the seminar, a copy of the presentation and some PDF information, and we have your email addresses. And if ultimately time doesn't allow, should we not get to or read your comments or questions, please be assured that we will see these from the chat, and we're going to contact you individually to respond immediately after the webinar. Now, Nihilent is a global consulting and services company that uses what we call a human-centered approach for problem solving and change management. And its comprehensive expertise in customer research, process and technology enables, frankly, newer heights of business performance. We enable our clients to realise their strategic goals through utilising our comprehensive business consulting, analytics and technology offerings, including through using or utilising our three amazing user experience labs, one in Pune, which is our head office in India, in Johannesburg and in Dallas, United States, a very tangible way by which we humanise technology, which is, after all, Nihilent's mantra. Nihilent was established just over 20 years ago by L.C. Singh, who I first met at the Harvard Business School's AMP program in the mid-90s. It was evident to all AMP classmates that LC marched to a different beat then, and he placed that human-centered approach, that humanity that he has, right at the centre of Nihilent's DNA. That's its differentiator, to be honest. Our assignments always start by just simply listening and not rushing to formulaically prescribe some IP solution. I've chaired Nihilent Australia for the last 6 or so years, and we've gone from strength to strength. And as a Gold SAP partner, we're hosting this interactive session with you on this topic, this exhortation actually. Don't you dare touch the core, rise above it. It's a wisdom that should be fully clear to you by the end of the session. Now, Matt Toll, who is the founder and CEO of the Fulton Market Group, is with us. He's going to discuss from the business point of view the reasons why today's interconnected world of supply chain management has become increasingly complex, especially for companies with a global reach. The challenges of understanding and then seamlessly coordinating with numerous suppliers spread across different countries and regions, it can be overwhelming. Further complicated as it has been in recent years with COVID impacting supply chains and traditional just-in-time management. And frankly, all against the backdrop of increasing sovereign strategic risk assessments and the identification of strategic assets. Ensuring transparency, efficiency and reliability throughout the supply chain was critical, say, 5 years ago, but how businesses tackle these even greater complexities today and tackle them effectively has become even harder. Rajiv Dev is Nihilent's truly international head of digital AI and business process improvement. He's going to tackle these issues from a global learnings perspective, touching on the ways by which Nihilent can likely provide tailored IT solutions, which is real Nihilent IP. for these critical potential pain points. And that Nihilent IP extends to its IVEN, which tackles vendor management and transparency, iMission, which tackles the ways in which sustainability is calculated through different modes of transport, and Ideal, which is a modern dealer engagement portal. Sales channels partners such as the distributors and the dealers, stockists, and end customers can use this for primary and secondary sales. These Nihilent solutions have been built on the SAP Business Technology Platform, the BTP, and can so enable businesses to seamlessly tackle these issues, and most importantly, on an enduring basis, and do much more. I want to first come to Matt. Matt's company is a truly fabulous story, not just exceptional within the Australian context, but within a global context. Now, get your heads around this. He has delivered over 3.8 billion pounds of beef and pork to McDonald's markets all around the world, in fact, 20 destination markets since the initial delivery in 2017, and he sources it from 7 global regions. I've known Matt for a while now, and I have been blown away by his intent to build the world's most resilient and sustainable food supply chain, and also blown away by the reality that he has delivered, pun intended, on that intent. Matt, Nihilent is very grateful for your support, and we hope, in fact we know, that some of the insights that you will offer will resonate with the experiences of many participating on this webinar. And I hand over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that introduction, and thank you to all at Nihilent for inviting me to participate today. As Chris mentioned, I'm Matt Toll. I'm the CEO of FMG, which stands for Fulton Market Group. Fulton Market Group has one customer, and that is McDonald's. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about our business today, and then talk a little bit about some of the things we're thinking about, some of the issues that we're facing, and how we might be tackling them. So, as I mentioned, we have one customer, which is McDonald's. We work on behalf of them in their efforts to consolidate their supply chains, initially on beef, currently on pork, and we're looking at a few other products for them as well. Our role starts with forecasting markets. It moves into setting strategy around those forecasts in order to deliver a short supply and predictable and competitive pricing around that, and all that goes around that with increasing focus on things like sustainability. We, as a business, then execute against that. We procure the beef or pork, we move it around the world, we deliver it into the facilities, and we're running ingredient blending, least cost formulations as well in order to deliver that product into the facilities. We also finance all of that flow from woe to go and provide terms for our customers. We then report on that and think of our business from a finished cost basis versus a first cost basis. And by that I mean we seek to understand the whole supply chain such that we understand value in delivering products to our customers. We supply 70% of McDonald's beef globally and 70% of their pork globally, and that's around 10,000 tonnes a week of beef and pork that we buy and move and deliver and finance around the world at any one stage. As Chris mentioned, a bit of complexity there. We're buying from 125 meat packing plants, delivering into 22 facilities in 20 countries around the world. We have offices in the US and in Australia, and soon to be in Europe. Our business model is cost plus and transparent, and uses the consolidated volume to try and leverage the scale that McDonald's has, not just for supply chain benefit, but also increasingly for projects around sustainability, animal welfare, etc., that McDonald's seeks to have delivered on. Our business model being cost plus, we charge a very small fee for our service. and we are high volume, low margin, and that's our business, and therefore technology enables us to keep our overheads low, but also be more accurate and precise in delivering on our promise. There's a little background on our business. We are really focused right now on three main buckets, and we define those by resilience, digitisation or digitalisation of the supply chain, and sustainability. And just looking at a couple of those in a little bit more detail. So resilience means assuring supply, making sure that that our restaurants never run out of product, and that goes way back to farm, increasingly back to farm these days. And we are having to go further and further down the supply chain to ensure that our supply chain remains resilient. It is not just the physical product; it's also around access to capital. It's around the technology that enables us to deliver on that. Digitising the supply chain is important to run an efficient business, and we're seeking to integrate as best we can with all of our supply and customer partners. And as I mentioned before, we are having to go now back to farm in order to deliver on some sustainability goals, and we're encouraging that data start at farm and flow all the way through the restaurant. From a sustainability point of view, McDonald's, like many other corporates and companies, have made commitments out to 2030, and it's our job, being the majority buyer of beef and pork, to deliver against those goals. So there's a huge amount of focus on that. Happy to talk about that in question time in a little bit more detail if you're interested. From a supply chain point of view, you know, for the last 20 odd years, we've been dealing with just-in-time supply chains, and we've all been structured and set up along those lines, which has meant we've been fairly narrow and thin in what we do, and in order to stay on top of things. COVID obviously changed the dynamic. It changed the way that we looked at supply chains, and there was a move to just in case. And in my view, that's smart and right. We're not going to run anyone out of product, but it has led, I believe, to more inefficient supply chains with redundancies along the way. Our job right now is to find the balance between the two, so that we can run that just-in-case supply chain, but more on a just-in-time basis, so that we do that as cost-effectively as possible. Data visibility helps us with that, helps us understand where we're at in our supply chain, what our requirements are, etc. We've got a lot of work to do on things like demand planning, which will help us be much better at that, and we're working on that. But data helps us tackle that. Integrations help us there, and obviously some work around analytics helps us there to predict where markets might go and where supply might go. So in order to do that, we're working on creating transparency. Being with cost plus, there's nothing to hide in our supply chain, and there's no middlemen, intermediaries. So we are working to make our supply chain as transparent as possible. We're working hard on demand and production planning. We certainly haven't got that right. We've got a lot of work to do there. But I think that there's huge savings to be had certainly in our supply chain if we can get that right. And looking the other way down the pipe, supply visibility and planning, integrations with suppliers, understanding how they operate, creating different relationships, not just the economic and commercial one, but sitting and understanding how what drives people and how they might be more effective in partnering with us. Obviously, like all of you, we are looking at optimising supply chain wherever we can, however we can. Increasingly, that optimisation is tying into sustainability and how that intersects. Relationships are always going to be in any business, and I think increasingly so these days. I think there's a bit of reflex to do. I know we're on Zoom now, but meetings on Zoom and not travelling, we believe sitting across the table from someone is incredibly important, and especially so in these volatile times. We're working hard on access to capital. I think that's going to get tighter, obviously, not just from an economic, financial times we're facing, but I think from an ESG point of view, I think banks and financial institutions will start putting restrictions on capital that will mean that we all need to have the data to demonstrate our activities to unlock that access to capital. As far as the future, you know, I mean, it's just, very rarely do I go into a meeting these days and have 5, 10, 15 years ago, the initial discussion in any meeting was about price, beef price, cattle price. Today, the first discussion is around sustainability, how we're going to reduce emissions, how we're going to decarbonise our supply chain. And I think that is a whole of supply chain discussion for us all. So we're focused on that. Finance and cash flow, I think, are crucial relating to sustainability. And the ability to stay agile and dynamic. We focus not just with customers but with our team on that, because we want people at the coalface being able to make agile decisions because of the volatility we're facing now. We just don't have the time to be making decisions up and down the tree. We've got to make decisions on the spot. That's our business. It's a little complex, but I must say technology helps us run and drive our business efficiently. And we are investing as a business significantly in that and will continue to do so going forward. Thank you, Chris and Rajiv.
Sure. Well, thank you again, Matt. Every time I hear your story, there are always so many questions as follow-up I want to ask you, but that's not my prerogative today. But the second thing that always strikes me about you when you speak is transparency with which you speak and the clarity. And thank you again for that contribution. And I'm sure there'll be many questions, Matt, so thank you. I'm going to come to Rajiv. Rajiv is going to explain how we've been assisting companies globally mitigate these challenges through the integrated introduction of SAP RISE and the Nihilent technologies. For a layman like myself, it's really a question of how you move from the system of record, where you're running your organisational base level transactions, to systems of engagement, how you layer it above it. It's a fascinating story. It's a brilliantly simple but wonderful concept that's been introduced. Rajiv, looking forward to hearing from you.
Sure. Thank you, Chris and Matt, for putting it so nicely. See, I keep traveling to Australia. In fact, I was in Australia 2 weeks back. And apart from my love for the coffee there, the wine, the variety of Asian food that you get there, and of course, how do I not mention Tim Tam? I think I'm still wondering, how do you celebrate Christmas on the beach? You know, that's one thing which is in my agenda, but not yet done. Looking forward this year. One of the differentiator, one of the observation that I had, especially with interacting with the customers in the region, I think we're very, very direct. They want you to get to the point pretty fast. You separate out the noise from the signal, and that's what I love. I think I'm looking forward to similar kind of a conversation today. A little bit about me. I look after an area called digital ERP. I work across the globe, and what I'm going to present today is my view of where the world is heading towards, where the organizations are spending their money, their time, the effort, and how the sort of an IT landscape is changing, and how product companies like SAP are making a real effort to bring that change into the enterprises, and organizations like Nihilent are helping organizations, enterprises in their digital transformation journey. So what I have seen, especially talking to most of the companies, the problem statement is pretty same. The traditional ERP, which the organizations are using for last 20 years, 10 years, in some cases more than that, they were not designed to solve a lot of problems. They were designed to be a system of record. They were designed to run the transactions within the organizations. But as users start demanding, more and more better screens, users start demanding better workflows. There are productivity solutions which are expected. There are different reports which users are used to of seeing it in a particular way in their decision making. Connectivity to third party. So that whole core actually got messy. I mean, because there was no other avenue the CIOs started changing the core. They started to develop all those solutions on top of the core. But obviously it was not designed to do that, so it didn't solve a lot of problems. And hence, business units started venturing out into some of the SaaS solutions in the market, like Salesforce, putting on top of it for CRM. There are a lot of low-code, no-code solutions which are in the market today. For last 5 to 10 years, we are seeing flux of these solutions. There are cloud applications, there are platforms, enterprise solutions. So if you look into this diagram, it's not only the mess of the core, but also the IT landscape has evolved, and it's a reality. I mean, it's a combination of different applications which are sitting there together, solving multiple problems, but obviously they made disparate systems and they don't talk to each other. So the enterprises are now demanding that, we don't want to simply let go the applications which are already there, which are solving in bits and pieces some of our solutions. We want solutions to integrate these applications, right? We want our supply chain to be connected. We want, Matt talked about a very clear view of transparency and all those kind of things. So those are the real problems. There is data generated by all these applications across the organization. How do we use that data in our decision making? How do we excel operationally in terms of automation, efficiency? Sustainability is at top of our agenda. So the core ERP system, obviously we saw, is not going to solve these problems. We need a layer of integration on top of it. We need a layer of automation, which allows us to automate some of the workflows and bring in the efficiency gains. We need a layer of analytics so that we can be better at decision making. We want an experiential layer where we can engage with the end customer in a more better manner, collaboration to go beyond the 4 walls of the organization, and finally sustainability. So it's not as simple as making a change in the core and you achieve that. These are the layers that the enterprises are demanding, which is what we call it moving away from system of record and going to the system of engagement. SAP has been working on this for quite some time, and they have come up with a product called Rise with SAP. And this is what the fundamental difference between the core, which is S4, and other components of Rise with SAP. So what they have done is they have separated out the core S4 HANA and said that, if you're migrating from ECC to S4, get to the core pretty fast. Keep the core as clean as possible, because we are giving you avenues to do automation in the form of IRPA. We are giving you integration suite, BTP platform, which allows you to integrate with non-SAP solutions. There are connectors, out-of-the-box connectors, where you can connect with all the branded solutions. It's completely API managed solution. SAP Analytics Cloud, where you get into all your dashboarding, reporting, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. You have build apps for building the experiential layer. There is a business network to go beyond the organization and talk to your partners, suppliers, customers in the more real time. And of course, sustainability tower, where you can do the compliance and regulation of all your sustainability issues. So SAP has actually rebundled the product, and they have designed it keeping in mind what the problems the enterprises are facing today, and how do we solve the theme of moving away from system of record to system of engagement. Now, if I have to explain BTP platform in a very simple manner, it basically has 5 different buckets. You have a core which handles all your transactions at the base level. On top of it, if you want to do any integration, that is one of the bucket. If you want to do any development of the app, whether it is mobile applications or web applications, you have an app dev bucket, you have an automation bucket, you have analytics bucket, and finally you have an experiential bucket. So using these 5 buckets, you push all your new age solutions to a business technology platform. Right? Now, obviously, like with any product that comes in the market, there are solutions, there are accelerators which organizations like us build, because we always look at the white space. We're much closer to the customer. We're talking to the customer around the globe. We are understanding their problems, and there are white spaces which exist there. And this is where a company like Nihilent comes very handy. We have been working with SAP much before they released Rise with SAP. We have been working in their HANA Cloud space. And that's why we have some of the accelerators, very, very unique accelerators sitting on top of BTP platform, which allows the organizations to connect their supply chain seamlessly, whether it is on the supplier side, whether onto the dealer network side, on the transportation side. And we also work very closely with SAP Waldorf, where we plug in some of the sustainability solutions within their business network solutions. So I'll give you a very quick brief about how some of these solutions are taking care of helping us connect various supply chain across the organization. So every supply chain has two sides. It has a supply side where you have a service provider, where you have material suppliers, and of course contract manufacturer in some cases. And there is a dealership side, or the end customer side, where you have a dealer, retailer, and the end customers. And you need solutions across this spectrum to connect your supply chain effectively. So for example, if it is a contract manufacturer, we want to, as a manufacturer, as a brand, I would want to see the production plan. I would want to see how the execution is happening. At what stage of manufacturing is my product sitting at? What's their inventory level, stock adjustment, dispatch plans, all these kind of things. And it gives me a direct visibility by using that accelerator sitting on top of BTP, connected to the contract manufacturer. Similarly, IVEN is one of the prime solution, which is actually part of the SAP Store. It's available on SAP Store. It allows vendor onboarding over a portal. Again, at the back end, they are seamlessly connected to the S4 system. So your purchasing model within the SAP works as is. It's the gap when you interact with your vendors is what IVEN fills in. It allows you to onboard, it allows you to do any back and forth communication with the vendors so that there are no phone calls or emails outside of the system. It brings everything inside the system. It generates a lot of data. It allows you in decision making in terms of who is the right vendor, what kind of financial stability they have, all the regulations and all the documents can be kept on that portal. So the entire cycle of PO to invoice and the payment can be handled there, including the advanced shipping notifications. Right. Similarly, we have a solution which is more from a transportation orchestration perspective, where we can see what's the dispatch plan, we can see the tracking of the vehicle, we can look into some of the quality certificates, we can look into the exact location and some of the notifications, any interaction that happens during the transportation there. Ideal is another solution which we have it on the SAP Store, and this solution do exactly the same thing what we were trying to do with the suppliers or the vendors. We are doing it with the dealers, and hence it allows us to see what a dealer is selling to the end customer. You know, that's typically a black box for most of the companies. They don't get to see the secondary sale or tertiary sales data. And Ideal as a system allows us to see that. It allows us to give recommendations to a dealer based on the AI/ML engine that is running in the background. And finally, we have an iEngage as a customer engagement solution, where in a B2B environment, you know, one of the biggest challenge organizations faces is how do I connect with the end customer? How do I go from B to B to C? And that's what it solves. It allows your avenues for the customer to do registration, warranty, complaint, and all those kind of things, where we can understand the demography of the customer and we are better at decision making. Now, one of the recent solutions that we have plugged into the SAP Store is in sustainability space, and this is what I was talking that we created this solution together with SAP, and it is plugged into SAP Business Network. There's a product called GTT, Global Track and Trace, and that's where you get to see this. You have a supply chain, you have a transportation layer of the supply chain, and each of that transportation layer, whether it is rail, road, marine, air, how much carbon is emitted. So it gives you scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 carbon emission on the transportation layer, and it allows you with some kind of a decision making in terms of which of my suppliers are producing more and how do I influence them to sort of change their mode and route optimization and all these underlying processes attached to that. So these are some of the solutions that we have in the connected supply chain sitting on top of SAP BTP platform and helps us in connected supply chain. Now, I want to hear more from your side. I want to hear some of your challenges and how do we help you fix it. But it's extremely important that depending on what stage of maturity you are sitting currently in your journey to digital transformation, when you move to the new age RISE with SAP, or you move to the S4 space, make sure that you don't carry the mess around, which you created in last 20 years or last 10 years. I mean, whether we like it or not, the maturity of SAP now is much better than what it used to be, let's say 20 years back or 10 years back. So a lot of those solutions which you created are no more needed. So make sure there is an effort, and this is what we have built in our framework, our philosophy, that when we go for any implementation, by the way, we have done 25 plus RISE implementations already, something we are very proud of. As a vendor, I think we must be the only one with that number of RISE implementations. And the only reason for our success is that we give right advisory to the customer, that there is a need to remove some of those unwanted processes, and there is a need to lift a lot of those processes onto the BTP layer, where you have an app dev, integration, automation, experience, analytics. So anything to do with your reporting needs, your dashboarding needs, your analytics space, anything to do with integration with the third party and non-SAP systems, anything to do with automation, you should not carry that to the core. You should migrate the core, which is clean, and you should lift all of those things at the higher level. Now with that, I'll hand over the stage back to Chris to take it forward.
Right, Rajiv, thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. I love the idea of leaving the mess behind. There's a question here from Ashwin, and I want to couple that. Is there a way for that non-SAP user to have similar products built up for them if they don't want to use the SAP platform? But prior to that, I'm also interested to know, or for you to remind us, how long does it typically take to implement products, these buckets?
In case of a Salesforce, it is called MuleSoft. So there are different platforms available, or a lot of companies may end up going for a homegrown platform to start with, and then once they are matured enough, they move to product like SAP. But there has to be a platform which allows different applications to talk to each other. We call it an integration platform, and using that platform, then we build on analytic solutions, we build on automation workflows, we build on transparency, we build on visibility, all those kind of things. Bring the data onto the platform as quickly as possible.
Thanks for that, Rajiv. Matt, switching to you, Sonia has asked the question of what was the sort of quintessential pain point? You've been doing this since 2007, had extraordinary success. To without simplifying it, extraordinary success came through you really addressing front on a significant pain point. What was that, and what are you anticipating as the next one or two pain points? You covered it in your comments very nicely, but Sonia's just wanting, I think, for you to just hit the high points on what's coming down the turnpike, those pain points.
That's a very good question. So the pain point from, say, given this is a technology discussion, the pain point for us, and it is an ongoing one, is dealing with handling information and sharing information. So my very simple, look at things simply, we buy stuff, we move it around, we pay for it. And in any movement of product, we're moving, to my mind, three things. We're moving the physical, we're moving money around with it, and we're moving data around with it. And so the pain point for us has been on the data side, facing up to those that we deal with, and they have a variety of issues in how we share information. And the bigger guys, and I get it, they've got lots of customers and they've got a system that does what they want to do, but they can't, or it's difficult to customize for every single customer they have. And so that having them shape up and deliver information to us, we've been reasonably successful at, but it's been a slog. To the other end of the scale, I mean, we've still got people in the US that want us to pay them by checks. Right? And so shaping up those guys and dealing with their information from spreadsheets or wherever. We initially started with, here's how we want to get the information. Now our conversations are, how do you want to give us the information? And then we'll deal with it from there. And so that was a bit of a learning for us and going forward. As far as looking forward, I mean, as I mentioned, to my mind, the three things we're moving around are product, data, and dollars. Combining the data and the dollar thing, I know I've mentioned finance a little bit, but my concern is that financial institutions will start linking ESG performance to access to capital, and therefore those that participate in the supply chain will need to have really clear data that they can report in order to access that capital. And we are working very hard to ensure that. And the MMRV is a term that's increasingly used, manage, monitor, report, and verify. And so accessing and clean data that can be used for any, and we'll all use it. The farmers will use it for on the beef side for abattoirs. The abattoirs will use it for people like us. Farmers, abattoirs, and us will use it for banks. Companies like McDonald's will use it to report to Wall Street. And so that is a huge focus for us, and it's not going to be easy. And that's why I'm really interested in this discussion, because anyway, we can create more transparency and access to shared data, the better. Hopefully that answers the question to a degree.
No, thank you for that. Sebastian sent in a question. It's not in the chat, but the questions come in. They're not on the for Hannah. When's a good time to start, Rajiv? I think embedded in that question is, are there some prerequisites, basics you need in place, or can you literally start tomorrow? And related to that, for my curiosity, in this be a business-to-business environment, do both parties need to be on the S4HANA or to be functional, or is it just need to rely on the side of the enterprise of taking advantage of it? Can I leave those two with you?
Sure. So to answer the first question, I think the best time to obviously go is now. What's important is that, like I said, very, very important that you do that groundwork in advance. Make sure that you don't move the mess to S4. Keep the S4 very clean, divide it into three parts. What am I going to move to S4? What I'm going to lift to BTP, and what I'm going to not move and leave it behind. Baggage, I don't want to carry, because obviously a lot of solutions that you were using 5 years back are no more needed in the new age system. So that's the key prerequisite. I mean, apart from that, obviously the industry that you belong to will also have a lot of deciding factors, and I'm sure you must be engaged with some advisory organization which is helping you, but would love to have a conversation to get into more details around that. But that's the crux. As long as you have done that exercise well, I think you will be more successful in your future, because in the future, chances are S4 will not be upgraded. S4 will stay at the core, and any new developments, integrations, anything that happens will happen on those layers that BTP has. Now, if your partner, suppliers, and your ecosystem is a non-SAP, it absolutely doesn't matter. And that's where the world is heading towards. I mean, we're designing the solutions so that they talk to each other. The whole premise of having a BTP platform is that it has connectivity already established with all the players around that. It's more plug and play sort of a thing, and a common language that all of them are speaking. So connecting to a partner who is a non-SAP partner, absolutely fine. And that's how the business network is designed. That's how BTP is designed. And that's how all these solutions are moving towards. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Rajiv. it's just a lull in the chat questions. I might take that as an opportunity to Matt to just get a. I think I know the answer from what you said, but from what you've seen of the Nihilent product solution, as Rajiv locally calls them, buckets, they've got universal application, not only in the food business, more broadly. Can you see that playing out?
Yeah, I can. And I think any way or any effort to increase transparency is only going to be beneficial. And I think those that embrace that will do well. And I think the models or buckets, as Rajiv described, are set up in a very logical format, you know, and I think laid it out really nicely. They're starting like and going all the way to the rest. I think there's some, and no doubt it's doing a lot more than what's on that screen, but I do think there's an opportunity there to go a little deeper down the supply chain as far as gathering data, in our particular case from on-farm, and we're going to discuss that, and I think that's a real opportunity going forward. But yes, I do. I think that there is a real opportunity. I think the demand plan, for my being selfish, demand planning is the thing that really will help us really tighten up what we do. And then if we can use predictive analytics around that, and then start looking backwards down the supply chain, I think we can be so much better than we all are today.
Yeah, thank you. Rajiv, we said at the outset that we're going to send out a copy of the presentation to all of this. But somebody to bring themselves up to speed, that they presumably could go to the SAP store and really educate themselves on what this whole issue is all about. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I think SAP store obviously is the first place you should visit where you're looking for some kind of an accelerator, some kind of ready solutions. I think today we are too used to going to Play Store or an App Store on a mobile, but for businesses, you know, we're still not adopting that kind of a thing. So before we go out and try to develop something on our own, I think SAP store is and SAP is aggressively working with partners like us to create solutions. There is already a roadmap that we are also catering to, and I'm sure that the partners are also catering to with SAP. And these are the solutions. These are reusable solutions. And it's a similar kind of a solution. Vendor onboarding is a problem for pretty much every organization. Connecting to your end customer in B2B2C environment is a problem for almost all the customers. So these are the problems where the solutions are being created. So it's always good to go with an accelerator, and I think SAP Store is a good starting point. SAP has also put a lot of material where you can read about BTP, where you can read about how integration suite works. You can make awareness within your organization, because I think one of the bigger challenges is you have a workforce which is using a traditional SAP system for the last 20 years. It's not an easy change management. It's not an easy thing to tell someone that you're not going to get this report while you're going to use SAP Analytics Cloud to much better, much more advanced predictive analytics and all that. So that need a mind shift, that need a leadership, direction from there on. So those are some of the things that we also, wherever we are engaged with, I mean, I think we put a lot of efforts in making sure that the organization is successful in their journey. So these are some of the things.
I can't see another question. I tell you what, Matt, that really sticks out that you continue to emphasize is the sustainability aspect. It bleeds into capital availability. It's part of the zeitgeist of what's happening in the world for obvious reasons. And without fail, every time you speak about the extraordinary accomplishments of your operation. You stress sustainability. It'd be a nice note, I think, just to finish up and for you to double down on what it is you're seeing internationally on this issue, because it is so important. Can I just perhaps give you the last word on that?
Of course, thank you. It varies country to country, and obviously there are varying degrees of uptake, skepticism, belief, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of corporate, a lot of major public companies, a lot of private companies have made commitments out to 2030 that now need to be delivered on. Those commitments are going to be difficult to deliver on, but I do think, you know, we all saw how quickly the vaccinations developed through COVID, so hopefully with the technology and a bit of oomph behind it, that will make some progress in sustainability. Where we're at is, a lot of people think this is a problem, you know, and it's going to be difficult. I actually think it's a huge opportunity, and I think it's a massive opportunity for Australia to really lead here on the beef and agriculture side. And we should embrace it. And I actually think, you know, historically there's been, apart from your asset, your farm, you've had one income stream, which is what you grow and what you sell. I see three income streams going forward. You've got livestock, and you've got carbon credit underneath the soil, carbon credits, and above the soil, natural capital credits. And I do think that farmers and producers are going to be able to take advantage of that going forward. How they, and I think that's a good thing. So so there's a lot of work being done in the soil. There's a lot of work being done in pasture management and vegetation management, natural capital management. But also, I think there's huge amount of work which we're particularly working on around livestock and the changes that can happen there. There are genetics being built right now that are in place in the ground for cattle that will naturally emit less methane, and that's exciting. And McDonald's, for example, has made a commitment to reduce 50% of GHG, greenhouse gas emissions, from their supply chain by 2030. And beef cattle emit a large amount of methane, and they're a large part of that. So that's what we're focused on. So the genetics are there. There's different ways of raising cattle that will deliver on that. There are different feed additives. We're doing some trials on Asparagopsis, which is seaweed, and the claim there, and this is an Australian thing, which is really exciting, from an Australian company down in Tasmania. And the claim there is that they will reduce methane emissions from cattle to 90 to 95%. There's a lot of testing we need to do around that, but there's some seriously exciting things there. There are some synthetic feed additives that might be able to deliver results as well. And I don't want to drag everything back to technology, but all of that incredible work on farm, above, below the soil, in the animal itself, in feed additives, will mean nothing if we can't MMRV, measure, monitor, report, and verify, right? Verification is a huge thing. Can't be us. We buy the meat from McDonald's, so it can't be us saying it's good. It's got to be a credible third party. And we're working with a number of those to develop that credible third party verification. But then it's our job to measure, monitor, and report so they can verify. And that's an equally large part of our work, is getting that right, so that the good stuff that happens on farm can be used as a benefit. And anyway, to wrap it up, I think it's a massive opportunity for Australia, and I think we should all embrace it at pace.
Well, that's a very uplifting note to perhaps finish this. And Matt, not sure whether the pride's the right word, because I have no ownership in it, but very proud of what you're achieving. Very impressed. Rajiv, you're the international expert and I'm the punter here, but let me try and pull this together by way of a summary. Today's problems need modern solutions, and yesterday's IT products and buckets aren't going to solve those today. And that's the whole premise of RISE with SAP. Leave the core behind and layer above it and get on with it. And it's not nearly as hard as you happy with that as a summary?
Absolutely. I think you nailed it down. Nailed it down, Chris. Yeah.
Well, look, to everyone who participated, thanks for those questions. Thank you for joining in on the call. Don't hesitate to follow up with us. We'll be following up with you. It's been a very productive session, it's been a fascinating session. Rajiv, thank you for joining us today, for sharing those global learnings that you get exposed to. And Matt, thank you for a wonderful story, beautifully told, and for the transparency. On that note, we might leave it there. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you. Looking forward.